A man steps into the elevator to head to his office. But suddenly, the elevator stops working. He quickly calls the security office for help, and they assure him they will arrive in a few minutes. However, after 2 hours, no one shows up. He decides to force the elevator doors open with his bare hands. But no matter how hard he tried, he could only create a small gap, not enough for him to escape. Just as he is feeling confused about the situation, his phone rings, and his wife tells him that someone is knocking on their door, and she is terrified. She also mentions the TV reporting people losing their minds and attacking each other in the streets. The man had no idea what was happening, and all he could do was try to comfort his wife over the phone. After ending the call, he checked his phone, and it turned out the reports were real. As he was about to take a moment to calm himself with a cigarette, he suddenly heard frantic screams from behind the elevator doors. People were running for their lives. A woman suddenly collapsed in front of him. She was terrified, begging him for help, but before he could react, she was grabbed and pulled away. The man slowly moved closer to the small gap, but before he could look out, 2 terrifying zombies lunged at him. Fortunately, the gap in the doors was too small for them to reach him. Just then, a sudden noise distracted the zombies, and they turned away. He called the security office again, demanding to know why no one had come to help him yet. But the security guard had no idea what was happening either. His voice was suddenly cut off by loud screams, indicating the security guard had just been attacked. Just then, his phone rang again. It was his wife. But before he could answer, he suddenly felt strong hands grab him from behind. It was the woman from earlier, but now she had turned into a zombie. He grabbed the metal handrail inside the elevator and used it as a weapon, stabbing the zombie until she finally collapsed. He grabbed a bottle of water and washed the blood off his face. Since he couldn't bear the woman's lifeless stare, he used the steel pipe and moved her body aside. Just then, he heard footsteps outside, and it was a new employee from his company. He cautiously called her over and handed her the steel pipe, hoping she could help him force the doors open. They struggled, but the doors wouldn't budge. The pipe suddenly slipped from their hands and hit the floor with a loud clang. The noise immediately caught the zombie's attention. The woman panicked, and she had no choice but to run. To the man's surprise, instead of being caught, she actually managed to kill one of the zombies. The two exchanged a brief, exhausted smile. But 2 more zombies appeared and viciously attacked the woman. The man screamed helplessly as she was torn apart before his eyes. One by one, he was watching people die right in front of him. He desperately called his wife again, hoping to hear her voice for comfort. But his wife's situation wasn't any better. Before they could say much, his wife screamed in terror before the call was abruptly cut off. Tears streamed down his face as he buried his head in his hands, crying uncontrollably. Just then, he heard desperate cries for help coming from the hallway. It was his secretary. The zombies immediately turned toward the noise, forcing the woman to hide in an office. The man tried to make more noise to distract them, but they ignored him and rushed straight into the office and killed her. At the same time, the power in the building went out. Then, out of nowhere, gunfire rang out and the zombies dropped to the ground one by one. A heavily armed soldier appeared, and the man desperately called for help. The soldier approached, but couldn't open the steel doors by hand. He told the man they needed to restore the generator first. Leaving behind a pistol and a walkie-talkie, the soldier ran off to turn the power back on. After a while, the lights came back on, but the elevator doors were still jammed. The man tried to push them open himself, but the noise attracted more zombies. Without hesitation, he picked up the pistol and shot them all down. Just as he sighed in relief, a scream came through the walkie-talkie. The soldier was in trouble, and the man's last hope was gone. In complete despair, the man was ready to end it all. But just then, he heard a weak voice calling from above. It was the soldier, and he was still alive. The man opened the elevator's roof and pulled the soldier inside, but he had already been bitten. He shows the man a picture of his wife, saying he was relieved that she is safe. The man felt a deep sense of guilt, as he had been a terrible husband, arguing over small things and neglecting his wife, and now he might never see her again. The soldier eventually turned into a zombie, and with no other choice, the man raised his gun and pulled the trigger. The shot attracted more zombies, and he was trapped again. Out of bullets, he grabbed a shotgun from the ground. As he fired, the powerful recoil knocked him out. When he woke up, he heard gunfire. He peeked outside, but the zombies were gone. Then, his phone rang. To his shock, it was his wife. A soldier had rescued her, and she was safe. Tears of joy filled his eyes. But before they could talk more, his phone battery died. However, knowing she was alive gave him a new will to survive. Using the soldier's body as support, he finally freed the elevator doors and crawled out. When he stepped outside, the city was in ruins and bodies were all over the street. Suddenly, a zombie lying nearby grabbed his leg, but before it could attack, a sniper shot it down from a distance. The military had arrived, and the nightmare was finally over.